Thank you all for joining today, and welcome to the first in our series of webinar series, which we are calling Grow More Conversations. This is a series by Grow More Avenues. For anyone who doesn't know us, I know most of you do, you have probably been a coach with us, but Grow More Avenues is like an Ivy League for coach training in India. We are also exclusive India partners for delivering Marshall Goldsmith stakeholder-centered coaching to coaches, which is one of the most premium offerings in coaching across the world. And Grow More Avenues also provides coaching services and leadership development initiatives to medium and large organizations across. We are doing it in a much bigger and better way starting this year. We have been doing it for past 4 or 5 years, and we are bringing our A game on. By the way, let me introduce myself. I'm Ayushi. I work as the Vice President of Coaching Services at Grow More Avenues. Happy to have you all. So why have we started this series? Let me talk a little bit about that. The way organizations lead, manage, and grow is shifting faster than ever because of the way the digital transformation, AI, and everything has come in. And the generation Z, which is a digital native, they're bringing in a lot of flavor of that. So a lot of it is evolving really fast. In this dynamic business landscape, how can leaders stay ahead, build resilient teams, and create thriving workplace cultures? That's the thought that we had in mind when we decided to start this series called Grow More Conversations. It's a webinar series where we'll feature top CHROs, CXOs, and leadership leaders to bring in fresh perspective, real-world challenges, and actionable insights to help leaders drive impact. Let me start with introduction to our moderator, Inderjeet Singh. A lot of you, like I said, might know him. He's CEO and founder of Grow More Avenues. He's a master coach and a Marshall Goldsmith coach. He mentors coaches across the world. He's a global coach. And till date, in the past 10 years, he's been instrumental in coaching more than 2,000 coaches. And that's a huge number for anyone. So that's Inderjeet. Let me now start by introducing our panelists, our esteemed panelists today. Thanks for joining us, Anjali, Navneet, Rakesh. Let me give a brief introduction about each of you. So Anjali Rao, our first panelist, she's a country head for people and organization at Novartis. Thanks, Anjali, for joining us. Dr. Navneet Trikha, he's general manager HR at Godfrey Phillips. Thanks, Navneet. Mr. Rakesh Kher, he's CEO at Unominda. Thanks, Rakesh. And we have Mrs. Sudarsana Sanyal. She's head HR at CESC Limited. Thanks, Sudarsana. I think without further ado, we can start. One more thing, by the way, while we all our panelists are seasoned leaders, they have huge experience in leading large teams. What is also common among all of them is that they are Grow More coaches. So we are so excited to have you all and host you all on this webinar series. Now, over to you, Inderjeet, to take this forward.
Thank you, Ayushi. So you have been very generous with your words. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And so I am not going to waste much time, and I'm going to jump straight into what we are here for, to learn from these esteemed guests. And we have tried our best to, bring in as much diversity in our panel in terms of the industry and in terms of the roles each leader has played. So we have HR leaders, we have leaders from different HR leaders from different industries bringing different perspectives, and then we also have someone who is the CEO of a company. So we are trying to bring multiple, I would say, different diverse viewpoints here, so that we can make this a very enriching experience for all of you who are here. So I'm going to start straight away. And when I ask each one of you questions, that I'll also invite everyone to introduce themselves in a few words, right? So let me start with Anjali. Anjali, so the question is common to all of you. So as we are speaking about multi-generational workplace, and there are challenges and opportunities of every situation. There are pros and cons of every situation, we know. So my first question is, what are the biggest obstacles of having a multi-generational workplace? What are the obstacles? What comes in the way of working with them to get a great, I would say, effectiveness? Anjali, let me come to you.
Yeah, sure. Really excited to be here. Thanks a lot, Inderjeet and Ayushi. And I think really a very, very relevant topic of conversation, to sort of start us off with, which is on multi-generational workforce and a diversity of a very different nature in our workplaces, right? So I think before I jump into the obstacles part, I think we all need to realistically accept two things, right? One, I think the world around us is changing, it's evolving. And what used to be the trend several years back, where there used to be like a set retirement age, where people used to plan their lives as per, at this age, I'm going to retire. So I am going to work towards building up this corpus and have this retirement plan, etc. I think that sort of has changed quite a bit and will continue to change in the years to come, in my view, right? And I think that is also playing out when it comes to what's happening in our workplaces with regard to our workforce. So simply put, I think this is a reality. And I think when you know that this reality exists, I think we also have to see as people who are practitioners in this workplace, as HR practitioners, right? I see this as an opportunity to leverage, right? Which means that you are getting access to a very, very diverse workforce, freshers and fresh blood coming in every year, and also very, very experienced people who have grown in the ranks of the company. Possibly they've switched from industries, come, and they're still willing to work. And while retirement age as a concept continues to exist and many organizations follow it, I also want to put this point up that there are people who, after they retire, they do look for opportunities to continue to work, right? So it may not be that they come and join your company as a full-time work professional. They may be coming in consulting roles. They may be coming as part-time roles, whatever that may be, right? So to me, I think this is a huge opportunity to tap into. There is a war for talent. You need diversity of experiences. So here's the opportunity. So that's the start point. In terms of obstacles, right? I'd say there are bound to be obstacles, right? You're talking about different generations in a particular work environment, and different generations essentially means different mindsets, right? Different ways of thinking, different orientations that govern your workplace in terms of how one approaches work. And that's one part of it. The second is also just the speed, the mindset, right? And now, if you look at it, when you have people who have worked for several years in the workforce, they've been there, done that. They do bring in a certain mindset. And then you also have the generation which is really opening its eyes today. They're coming in. They are a generation of instant gratification. They want to see the tomorrow yesterday. They want to see things happen immediately, almost immediately. They're looking for quick fix. They're looking for gig opportunities. They're looking for, hey, can I move from one opportunity to another? And so imagine the diversity of mindsets itself can become an obstacle if not adequately handled, tackled, and acknowledged, that itself. And I do think that sometimes this diversity of mindsets cannot just be an obstacle, but that obstacle can be also turned into a strength if you are an organization that's smart enough to recognize some of these differing mindsets and you pull those mindsets into the right opportunities to solve the right problems, right? So that's one. The second, I think, is what I call as unsaid or said hierarchies of management, right? So I think we are in a place where while we all don't believe that hierarchies exist, they do exist. Sometimes they exist in a very formal way, sometimes in organizations that are very flat. They may not exist in a very formal way, but there's informal hierarchies exist, right? And by hierarchies, I really mean in any organizational setup, right? There is always some play of who's managing the work, who's managing deliverables, who's giving the direction, right? And again, right, if you take an obstacle view to this, right, it really comes down to different generations needing to manage each other, right? And it could be the reverse as well, right? By reverse, I mean that, you could have somebody who is very junior having to manage somebody who has grown in the ranks, who's very senior and seasoned. Or it could be the other way around, where you may have somebody who's coming in very fresh with a very different outlook and a mindset and a very different orientation, being managed by somebody who's been there, done that, and has a certain way of working. Right now, again, this can be an obstacle if one was to think about it as an obstacle. But if one was to recognize this as a reality, right, and say that, hey, how do we then get both of these to connect, to work, to reverse mentor even, maybe it's not an obstacle anymore, right? So I will stop because I do want to hear the other panelists, but these are really, high level reality obstacles that are going to come into the play with generational, sort of diversity and generational workforce diversity happening.
Thank you, Anjali. This was really very useful. So, I mean, what I listed is two, you gave us very powerful obstacles. One is the mindsets, because every generation brings different mindset with them. And second is about the hierarchies, how, somebody more experienced is trying to manage somebody who's less experienced, junior to him, and vice versa. So the challenge comes when the vice versa kind of a situation comes, right? So these are the two things that I've listed, and I'll come back to you if I missed anything. Let me go to Dr. Navneet Trikha.
Thank you, Inderjeet. Let me start by saying that, we are blessed to be in very interesting times. Interesting from the point of view of our economy, which is buoyant. Interesting from the point of view of having a demographic pyramid that offers opportunity of multiple generations to come together and work under one roof. Now, when we have this kind of a complex scenario, there are various beliefs and values that come to the fore. We all know that, values and beliefs are shaped up due to the realities and the context of the times through which people pass. For example, key values of boomers would be maybe hard work and resilience, whereas the key values of Gen X would be loyalty, dependabilities, orderliness. The key values later on for millennials came out to be teamwork, equity, and so on and so forth. And now we are faced with an interesting set of Gen Z cohort, wherein the key values on one hand are flexibility, inclusivity, and on the other hand are that of entitlement. So when all of these come to one workforce as a melting pot, you are bound to have very interesting combination of opportunities and obstacles. Since the question is pertaining to obstacles, let me say that the first obstacle, is about sticking to one's own value system, right? The second obstacle is from an organization's point of view, not to read this and have a very static culture and value system, which is perhaps not representative of values and beliefs of all generations. Now, this gets manifested in leadership styles. This gets manifested in teamwork. This gets manifested in the way the strategy and the culture intermix, unfolds. So, a very, very rudimentary expression of this would come forth through interaction patterns, right? A generation of boomers and X would have one preferred interaction pattern. Gen Zs would have another interaction, pattern. And therefore, how do we complement them? How do we give spaces to each other to be able to, have people say and make people listen? So that is one aspect that comes to my mind. Second is, of course, the leadership styles, which is a representation of, my own beliefs, the way I have worked with one generation at one point of time versus, what is required at this moment. Right. So that is the second obstacle of, how leadership styles, if they are uncomplimenting, would become an obstacle. The third obstacle would be our ability to, really read the career aspirations of people. If it is read rightly, then yes, there is a tick mark. But if it is not, then we have a chaotic situation at our hand. Similarly, another obstacle would be, while there is an opportunity that various skill, and attitudes get amalgamated at a workplace, but if they are disparate and not synergized to the objective or the ordination goal, then there is an issue. That's another obstacle. So these are few things, and the core remains the values and individual beliefs.
Thank you, Dr. Navneet. That's a quite a different perspective you have brought on the table. Because we all know that, as you rightly said, that our surroundings where we are born, raised, they shape us as we grow. And obviously different times, different requirements, and people grow up in with different values, to say in your language, which I assume, which I believe you said is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Naveed. So because of this difference in values, the challenges that can come up could be their different interaction patterns, right? So there could be different leadership styles and different career aspirations and different goals which may not be aligned with the organizational goals. So this difference in values could lead to these kind of challenges.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay, so coming from a different space altogether, Mr. Rakesh Kher, what about you, sir? What are your thoughts on this?
So thank you, Inderjeet. Thank you very much for having me on this webinar. Well, I can see from the limited videos, I can see here faces. I think I can very well make a statement that I'm the only baby boomer in this panel, at least, if not in the audience. So I've seen 4 generations throughout my career of 40 years, Gen X and then Gen Y, or maybe millennials and Gen Z. And I think I've seen 3-4 remarkable I would say characteristics which each generation has portrayed in the workplace. So let me start the first one with communication. I think here can distinctly see that each generation has pursued their own preferences on communication. While I belong to a generation of baby boomers who believes in F2F meetings or maybe very formal sort of setups, being loyal to the company, and the very fact that in 40 years, this is my 3rd job. So you can very well make out how strong and how rigid we were in our preferences. And definitely we followed a very structured approach to the work. But you look at Gen Z, which followed when I was maybe about 20 years, we saw emails coming in, and then, you had those direct communications. So probably the Gen X stood out. And then Gen Y was, of course, the mobile era. So we saw a lot of instant videos, digitalization, and things like that. And then Gen Z, we see GIFs and emojis and things like that. So probably the communication has rapidly improved. I would not say it is an obstacle, but I think it is a very good multi-channel generation which is there. So I don't see it as an obstacle. Initially, it appeared to be an obstacle, but I think now it is basically an opportunity. And the more we have these kind of multi-generational diverse teams, I think these obstacles can convert into a good advantage also. Second one I would take upon is the work-life balance. Now, in our times, the extra hours which you put in the workplace are very important, but very relevant. The boss used to see that you're putting in a lot of extra hours. And to a certain extent, the Gen X also took it along with them. But the other 2 generations which came, they never believed into this. They said, no, we're not going to put in extra hours. There's no need to put in extra hours. We believe in outcome. We believe in our work, which is the outcome of the work. So I think that was very important. But people like us who were inflexible probably saw this as a huge obstacle, that these guys run away and they go away. But little we realized that they were doing very smart working. They were ready to work from remote locations, as we see when COVID was a default exercise. But otherwise, they work very smartly. They work fast. So this is also a kind of an obstacle which showed up, but I think some of us probably took it in the right spirit, and we said, no, we want people like you. We don't want people to be sitting at extra hours. We need, because the next one, which is related to work-life balance, or directly related to that. Third was the work-life balance, which was like basically, since you were sitting more at home, so you were not worried about your work-life balance. But in the other case, Gen Y and millennials, they thought that they need to keep this work-life balance integrated. Probably we saw that they need to be integrated. It's not that they wanted a flexible. Now, flexible was with Gen X, but Y, and they said no compromise. We want to integrate that. So So this was probably another change which I saw was very predominant. And the third one was the stereotyping. I think a lot of panelists would have just touched upon the stereotyping and the generational bias. Now, this became a huge obstacle for many. And I saw this in various organizations where the baby boomers refused to accommodate such kind of thought processes. So their biases were showing in their growth of these people, of their junior teams, which came from different generations. So I think that correction probably many of us have made, but still I saw that was very predominant. And the fourth one is obviously the tech adoption. I think the tech adoption has been varying between the generations, and that's been one of the obstacles. But I think people who have been successful in the organization, because in India today, all the four generations are working. The age diversity is at the highest level. So all the four generations are working. Probably, yes, the majority probably would be tilted towards millennials. But otherwise, the demographics is such that in any organization, probably we will have to see that these obstacles are converted into opportunities. And these are the four distinct obstacles I saw my 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So to sum up what you said, sir, very valuable. The style of communication changed with the generation. So that could be an obstacle, which can be an opportunity, as you said also. So work-life balance, each generation viewing it differently. Stereotyping, having generational biases, rigid mindsets coming in the way, could be a challenge. And in fact, I agree with this also to the extent that we were doing one training program for a large manufacturing company, and we were equipping top leaders with certain skills which are coaching and mentoring related. And one of the biggest challenge they wanted to work on, I mean, they want to learn how to manage the next younger generations. That was their biggest challenge. So, they wanted to coach, they want to mentor their younger generations. So one is that they have a fixed bias or fixed mindset, but then even if they want to change it, and if they are open to it, they accept the reality, times have changed, they don't know how to manage. So that was a key obstacle, we were trying to help them deal with. And the fourth one, sir, you said is tech adoption, which of course opens up a different area altogether. Thank you for this. So these are some good key points here, and I'd like to move on to Sudarsana.
Yes, Inderjeet, thank you so much for providing me with this opportunity. So my co-panelists have already touched upon all the important aspects. So let me bring about some very grassroots level incidents, here. So I think in the year 2012 or so, I was traveling with a very young girl. She just passed out of Symbiosis and joined our organization as a management trainee. So I used to see that some work she will take great interest in, and some work she will just not, she will not deliver only. I used to be a little bit irritated. But one day when we were traveling in the airport, we just had a very informal chat over a cup of coffee. And that was an eye-opener for me. I asked her, what's your career aspiration? So she said, I don't want to grow, I don't believe in career growth. I believe in acquiring more skills. I want to be good at what I'm doing. It was a shock for me because in my generation, more or less everybody wanted to grow the corporate or climb the corporate ladder. And as time passed, but still, I was a bit doubtful about her candidature, whether that girl is really good, but she was exceptionally good in certain things. Like if we would ask her to organize a sports event, she will go all out and give it an IPL format, do streaming that time when YouTube streaming was not very common through SMS. But when I would ask her to do MIS, for example, she will not be interested. But as time passed and I started visiting campuses, I found those responses becoming more common. What is your career aspiration? I want to be good at what I am doing. So this is one side. I think, it's all about context because it's a diversity. Again, coming back to my own example, I married pretty late because I was focused on my career. I wanted to grow in my career. And since my elder sister got married very early, she was a professional, but she found it a hard time to balance with a kid and the corporate life. So when I was expecting, I was already heading HR of a region which was 6,500 crore. It was its revenue in the year 2009. And when I disclosed this news to my boss, he's an IIT IIM. He started giving me all kind of suggestions in good faith, from his own context, and bringing the examples of how his wife, despite being an MBA, left job because of the child. He didn't want me out, but he was suggesting me for sabbatical and other things in good faith. He was my mentor. So then I realized his context is so different. And most importantly, he didn't know my story. I wanted to be the son of my family. We are two sisters. He didn't know. He was completely oblivious of my story. Again, in today's world, I find when multiple generations are working, the same point is coming again and again, the context. The same senior executive, when he is at home, he is managing his child who is in this Gen Z. But when he comes to office, suddenly he finds it very difficult to digest the fact that these boys and girls want to leave at 5, or they want to have work from home 2 days a week. But at home, his son, his or her own, child is taking all this advantage. So it's very important that we become open-minded. We bring in that open-mindedness through informal interaction. When people ask the other person and colleague his or her story, and we cannot stereotype the generation saying that, straitjacketed, they are like that. Because when I go to colleges, diploma colleges, where I also come across children from a bit low financial capacity, there maybe some parents are in farming, some parents are auto rickshaw drivers. Their context, I find, is similar to baby boomers. They are playing it very hard. When they are at office, they are working till 8:30, and their only objective is, and there are some boys who cracked JEE but could not go for JEE for money. So they had to settle for less diploma, and they are working day in and day out very hard. So it's all about the context. It's very important that we bring in kind of informal setting also sometimes in the organization, or get together where people understand each other's story and context and know them as human beings individually. So their cross-project collaboration or some other format which HR can facilitate can help bring in a very cohesive workforce where people will appreciate each other's strength and will be open to learn from each other and take the other person as a human being, not belonging to any generation or gender. So that's my take on it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sudarsana. That's very powerful. So the obstacle you listed is kind of the decision makers not understanding the context and trying to label people. And so I think that's also very powerful. That can come in a big way to manage such a diverse workforce. And that also in a way moves me towards the solution side of it. So obviously my second question was going to be how do we leverage on these opportunities? Because most of you have also spoken about how these obstacles can be turned into opportunities. So I'll put my question in a more simpler way. How do we leverage on, how do we convert these obstacles into opportunities? Or if there are any other ways, idea is how we can become more effective. How can we make this multi-generational workforce a more effective force so that we are able to achieve targets that we have set out as an organization? So over to you, Anjali.
Yeah, I mean, I think really interesting perspectives, and there are a host of ways in that we could leverage this power of different generations being in the workforce to solve complex problems. And I would love to hear from everybody on the panel, but maybe the two that I'd like to offer is one, I think, is just educating ourselves. Right? And I think it's important, right? It might sound very a very tactical point, but let's ask ourselves, how many of us actually go and read up or educate ourselves, people in our teams about the various generations that are at play. Do we really do it? Do we know what is Gen Z, what is Gen X, what are baby boomers? Name it, right? And the point is, it's not just about the terminology. What I'm trying to get at is more than just the terms, more than just the buzzwords, right? It's about research, it's about educated reports that come up about the mindsets about these different generations, the efforts around understanding what drives different generations in the workforce, what governs their thought process, their actions, their reactions, etc. Right? So that's what education. And some of it could be, some people like to be educated by themselves and it's just a learning style, but some may need to be told. So you might want to insert into your training, for the lack of a better word, training or education or development curriculum, this reality about understanding one another, and not just understanding one another as people, but understanding what goes behind the scenes for people to react the way they react, right? And I truly believe there are some amazing assessments out there that provide you very great, deep insights about you, about why you are the way you are, and also it gives you a lot more insights when you make that something that that's an integral part of your team and your culture building. So just saying, so that's one part of it. The second part, I think, is, sometimes I believe that it's great to discuss about this in theory. And it's good, right? Sometimes to say, hey, you should have multi-generational workforce, you're truly diverse. But do we measure it? One. Two, do we actually do it? Do we go out of our way to create multi-generational workforces in our work environment? And sometimes where I was going with this is, one of the best ways actually to learn is to actually experience it while you are there working. You have different org models, you have different mindsets, you have different orientations, and perhaps that could also mean you have different age groups working in a team setup or in a project, right? And where I was going with this is, I just don't want to say that this is not just about hiring people, right? This could be also about the concept of teaming, right? And I really love that concept, and this is actually a concept I think that was coined by Amy Edmondson, and I'd encourage everyone to go and read up about her work. I really love her work. She talks about this concept called teaming, and teaming is really not about a team. It's not about a hierarchy in a team. Teaming is a concept where you bring in different sets of people who bring in very different, maybe mindsets, different strengths, different skills, capabilities, to go and solve a big complex problem, and or to solve or to just really brainstorm on a particular problem that we may have. Right? Now, what that does is, that is not forcing you to get into the traditional methodologies of, hey, go and hire this person, this is how a team composition needs to be, I have this rec, go and hire this. No, we're saying, hey, we have big companies have so many different people across geos, within a particular geo, maybe different age groups, etc., etc. Can we actually create avenues where you can get people who are truly diverse, possibly of different mindsets, possibly of different age groups, to come together, talk, team, brainstorm, and sort of approach it? So what that does is, that brings me back to the point which I was making, which is, you then really witness that in action. There are learnings from that, and sometimes those learnings can be experiences, sometimes they could just actually be aha moments, right? That's the second. The third one is, I believe, of course, right, we all do mentoring, we've all been mentored at some point in our lives, knowingly or unknowingly. I think one big thing that can really help multi generations operate and function really nicely.
Technology, right, can play at times. Having said that, I think she was going into space called mentoring. That mentoring can be really powerful to bridge the gap between multi-generational stuff. We'll wait for her to come back, and I'll be mindful of the time. So just to sum up what I heard Anjali say, was that one is that how do we leverage this opportunity? One is educate ourselves, right? So there is a way to educate ourselves. That's very important. Once we know, we make informed decisions. Second thing she spoke about was that it's not that you have a multi-generational workforce or you don't have it. Be deliberate about it. You can actually create a multi-generational workforce, and you could use concepts like teaming and mentoring to leverage on the strengths of this. So let me go to then Dr. Navneet Trikha. So Dr. Navneet.
I hear you, Inderjeet, that I need to be succinct.
And you have to give us
So-
only two, things that can be done to
Okay, so the
leverage this.
two things in my wisdom, perhaps are cracking the collaboration and leadership code rightly. And
Okay.
when I say so, let me quote some data. Now, Glassdoor reviews from 2019 to 2024 talk about an increase in leadership aspects of highlighting well-being and empathy by 27 and 76% respectively, which means that the reviews have highlighted that there has been a shift in the needle in demonstration of well-being and empathy by leaders. So that's a way forward, to be able to help the multi-generational workforce coexist and deliver. That is one. Second aspect of the leadership is that we have all heard and read about Eric Berne's transactional analysis, the ego states of parent, adult, and child. Uh, and we must also appreciate the fact that many of the people who are in managerial and leadership role are from Gen X, maybe millennials, and definitely from the boomer era. And there is a tendency of bringing the home at the workplace by being in the parental ego state of either being a critical parent or a nurturing parent. So a shift from that to an adult to adult transaction is something that is perhaps another key of cracking the leadership code. And the third one is, let me quote an article by McKinsey, the recent one, which is about inside the Gen Z leadership factory. It says that in 2025, one of the 10 managers or leaders would be from Gen Z. Now here we are talking about cracking the code of individual contributor, Gen Z as an individual contributor, and we enter into an era wherein the Gen Zs would be managers and leaders. So with their value system, if they are getting into that orbit, what is it that we as behavioral scientists or managers or HR professionals or leaders have to do to be able to inculcate those qualities of leadership besides well-being and empathy? And this article further states that these 6 qualities are optimism, selfless leadership, continuous learning, bringing humor to the table, resilience, and ownership. So a shift in leadership style in line with what is the requirement and being collaborative are two things that I think are solutions to convert these obstacle into opportunities. And once they get, you have immense opportunities in terms of having a very well defined TG, because our TGs are also Gen Z and not only millennials, and all, because they have disposable income more than anyone else and less of responsibilities, future centricism, harnessing technologies, and so on and so forth. So I'll conclude here because I know there are more panelists.
So, okay, I appreciate that. Looks like you really want to harness the power of Gen Z, and that's the tip, Dr. Navneet, you're sending our way, which we'll take. So I love that. Being able to collaborate better, improve our own leadership style, crack that code, which you said. And I like that as leaders, we need to focus on well-being and empathy, which is also important. And also acknowledge the fact that going forward, in 2025, as you said, the research mentioned 1 out of 10 managers are going to be Gen Z managers, right? So acknowledging their value systems and what kind of leadership style they bring on the table would definitely be a way to go forward, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Hi, Anjali. I think we lost you in between. And
No worries, no worries,
yeah,
Inderjeet. I
thank you
think
so
my
much.
last point, I think you captured. Thank
I
you.
captured that very well. I think so. Mentoring is what you were speaking about, and that's in fact what you said when you started speaking about educating ourselves. And I wanted to thank you for that, because that's what we as Grow More Avenues are in business of educating leaders. So in a way, anyway. So thank you so much for that. And
In
yes,
fact,
mentoring,
In fact,
mentoring.
Indrajit, when she
Yes,
mentioned that, what came to my mind was representational systems that you talk about,
yeah, yeah,
where we try to understand what is their learning style. If we
right,
understand that and harness that, it's not going to be very difficult to get
absolutely.
value.
Absolutely. And I think because we have at Gromer, we have a mentor certification program, which is different from coaching program, and we train leaders to become effective mentors. What I've seen is that, and we've done that for a lot of corporates, and we've seen that has really helped bridge the multi-generational gap, which is really powerful, because in mentoring, like a leader is mentoring somebody maybe 4 or 5 ranks below, but what is also happening is the reverse mentoring. So you're also, leaders are also kind of learning from Gen Z and all that. So that's a different story altogether, but that's not the topic for today. Let me go to Dr. Rakesh here.
Yeah, so I think what we all know about their preferences, styles, expectations of these 3, 4 generations, what I have practiced is that how to leverage the power of their unique skills, bring them on the table. During my last many years, I have created these cross-functional teams for any problem solving or any projects we take internally in the organization, and fair representation has gone through all these generations. And as a result, what has happened is that there has been a very good exchange of knowledge, perspectives, ideas coming in from senior people who probably had more of industry insights. I'm talking of baby boomers or Gen X, and the other 2 generations, which were more tech savvy or maybe had more creativity in them because of their unique styles. That combination has been a very good process to get into better decision making. And I think apart from the decision making, the respect and trust for each of these generations in the cross-functional teams has really given us very good results. And this is what we say is that the stereotyping, the biases, all these things have gone, and we have got a very good friendly kind of a team building where people work for each other, understand each other coming from different generations, and we don't get into any biases. So I think this is has worked very well. The unique strengths each generation brings in is it's something which we need to tap on, and the innovations, the creativity, and even the employee engagement. All these things go very high, and eventually the attrition goes down. Also, the younger generations feel at home that they are being accommodated with their different styles, which probably has no objections or no biases towards them. I think that was one thing which I have led it throughout. I've
Oh,
got excellent results. And the second one is reverse mentoring, which you
okay.
mentioned, but I will add 1 or 2 points here. We always
Sure.
believe from our generation that wisdom flows in one direction only, which was proved wrong in 1990s. I think this reverse mentoring concept came, I think the HR professionals would know better. It came in 1990. And I think from those days, probably, I think I've been practicing it for last 15 years or 20 years with my teams. And I have seen myself getting a lot of new insights. From my experience, if I relate my experience to them and I get those insights from them, I think it has been a two-way street. And this has definitely given me a lot of ideas on automation, on digital savviness, and now on AI. So how could I pick it up and be open to these kind of new concepts coming in? And then we have applied those concepts by making our IT, leveraging our organization more IT friendly, or maybe leveraging it to a very high standard. I think in our company, in our organization, we are the highest leveraged company, because if the leaders can understand this insights, and if they can combine the experience and keep resources over there, you have the youngsters who can drive it. And the
Wonderful.
things which are driving today, all these automation, AI, digital, etc., they're all very young. So they're all Gen Z, also, Gen Z or maybe Gen Y. So
Sure.
that's the way
Okay.
these things have.
Thank you, sir. I would love to listen more for amount of time. I like to summarize what you shared with us, and that's very powerful, leveraging the power of uniqueness of each person, their skills and their strengths, bring them on the table. And that can be best leveraged by creating cross-functional teams, which is you have really used very effectively. And you mentioned that because of that, decision-making becomes better, everybody feels respected, and a lot of trust gets built. And obviously attrition goes down, etc. Right? And the reverse mentoring part, which I think most of the audience here is quite open to and aware of, because that's how we learn now. So I'm going to go to Sudarsana now. And Sudarsana, that also brings up a test for you, in the sense, like being the last speaker, it also tests your ability to be concise and precise in your thoughts, right? So let's see how concise and precise can you be. So you got two to 3 minutes, and you have to give me 2 points.
Okay. So Inderjeet, I think most of the points my co-panelists have touched upon when it comes to collaboration, appreciating each other's context. Structurally, I have seen even policy making is a very important lever. I give examples. One is, this generation, the current generation, they believe in work-life balance. They believe in pursuing their hobbies. They believe in going for trek, wildlife, photography, and all these things, taking time out for their birthday. So first, when we came out, with a policy that you can take a leave on birthday, so the baby boomers and some generation said, birthday में क्या leave है? अरे हम तो उस time में birthday में site में रात तक 12 बजे, marriage anniversary, I forgot, But once we came with that policy, that same person, after a year, he's coming, मेरा birthday है, आज मैं छुट्टी लूंगा.
Okay,
Same
so there's
person.
now one is policy making. So I want to really cherish these moments you're sharing. I'm also mindful of the time. So you said one is add things into your policy making. What could be the second?
The second one would be providing the opportunity for continuous learning, and in different ways, even conducting sensitization workshop with the leaders, because finally things flow from top.
Okay.
And so therefore, sensitizing top level leaders is very important, and in true sense, true sense, because many a times these are ornamental. It's nice to have companies invest a lot of money, but finally it doesn't
In
break
its
it
true
tight,
sense. Yeah.
and has to be followed on a regular basis. So these are the 2 points I think would be effective.
Thank you so much. So policy making, providing, sensitizing the top leadership in a true sense, not just like, doing it for the sake of doing it, or just making it more look like ornamental. Okay, Ayushi, I'm sure you have been keeping track of questions asked by the audience. We wanted to
have
take
a
10 minutes.
few. Yes.
So sure. So let's
All
go
right.
with that.
Okay, so one question that came in was Jaya Azad said, would love to hear about unique intervention initiatives which can help to manage and thrive business and multi-generational workforce, apart from cross-functional projects, reverse mentoring, and coaching. So apart from these three, there were quite a few that we discussed, to be honest, throughout.
Yeah,
and this question was asked way back. So Jaya,
So-
is your question answered, or?
So I think I can sum up, because I've been taking good notes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think the things are like, of course, she spoke about 3 things, but then panelists have shared a lot about educating ourselves, using concepts like teaming, bringing different styles, skills, mindsets, and being deliberate about it. It's like, this is the reality, accept it, and rather make use of it, right? Don't speak about pros and cons, just use it effectively. And then, of course, leveraging the power of unique skills that people bring on the table, acknowledging the research that Dr. Navneet Trikha has brought on the table, how the next generation is going to be managers, 1 in every 10 managers are going to be Gen Z. So those kind of things, policy making, and providing some continuous learning opportunities for the top leaders. Okay.
So Swati Agarwal is asking this. What are some of the best practices adopted to balance traditional work values with modern workplace trends like remote work and flexible? I think, yeah, this is a good question. And flexible schedules, especially in organizations that need a certain section of their workforce to be visiting office or frequently travel for work.
Okay, I think I'll like Dr. Navneet Trikha to maybe jump in on this.
Great. Yeah. So, having the right kind of culture, which is a sensitive culture, and I am taking risks by saying having a dynamic culture. dynamic because your workforce is changing, your business demands are changing, and one cannot say that, look, this is our defined culture and it would remain for eternity as the same. So that is one key thing. Second, generating awareness. Now, awareness can be generated across the board, various practices, phenomena, and systems. I will quote one such, besides coaching and mentoring, which are, of course, key pivots, having a 360-degree mechanism in place. When you listen, you then accordingly, shell out policies and systems and processes. Open articulation of expectations, synergizing interdepartmental, intergenerational expectations through forums, which are informal, wherein leaders are approachable, leaders are sensitive, and, chances are given to people to speak up. Besides that, various systemic or policy related stuff like work from home, hybrid working, uh, you know, having programs, training and coaching programs for people across the board, ensuring that there are right set of cues that are present. Basically, the intent is help everyone see what it is, right? So if it is a flux of multi generation, then let's accept the reality. Spot the dissent, stay interviews, are things which have really come up after influx of Gen Z in the workforce. Uh, Buddy systems, for example, we have an onboarding system of 30, 60, and 90 days. Spot if there is anything brewing then and there only, and intervene.
Okay.
And counsel. So those are few things that come to my mind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Navneet. I have noticed that we have two other people raise hand. Mr. Bhaskaran, who is himself being a CEO of a company. Mr. Bhaskaran, you can unmute and share. We still have 6 minutes. And if you can be concise and quick, sir.
Yeah. Multiple generation is a topic which is given. Now we talk about only culture, genders, but then we have to accept, I think there were nice examples from Sudarsana and also Anjali. For me, the biggest topic is how baby boomers are adopting. I think Anjali said it in a different way. How do you learn? Adaptability is the key KPI to assess a leader, right? I mean, he has to be adaptable, and quite often we talk about a people manager. I mean, we cannot have only the visionary managers and running towards the targets. I mean, you are simply taking a road roller and going through people, but then who is there as a people manager? This is the biggest issue here today, right, in industry.
Okay.
And why don't we accept people as they are? This is for me the biggest punch. For example, I think every organization we talk about innovation without having the generational diversity. I don't think we can bring innovation into this arena, right?
Okay.
And we have to embrace and take it forward.
Sure. What Ms. Bhaskaran has brought in is really powerful. That you got to just accept it. It's a reality. You can't change it. And then, of course, how adaptable the baby boomers can be should be a KPI for them. That should be the measure of their leadership style. I believe that's a really powerful one.
In that one remark, you are demonstrating the role model. It's not only during coaching you are taking notes and doing it. We are conducting a session, and you're taking such a clean points and demonstrating it. Even this is a topic to be discussed.
Okay, sure. We can definitely go there. Thank you so much. Again, being mindful of time, Indrani. And you have a question or a comment?
Both. So when we talk about Gen Z leaders, I think Shantanu Naidu comes to the mind. And the question that I have is that how has the role of the HR leaders changed? I mean, has it become more complex, or is it just different? And what qualities do you need to be able to manage this multicultural workforce? Multi-generational workforce.
Okay, got it. I'll keep that here. I've noted the question. We'll see if we can address it. Let me go to Mr. Krishnan. Sir, 30 seconds.
Yeah, just a comment that I think all of us are managing multi-generational workforce in our own households. If my mother is there and my son who is beyond baby boomer and my son who is about, a younger Gen Y or a old Gen Z, I think all of us have learned to manage this at homes. So you
Right.
just need to bring that learning in the workplace also. I think
Wonderful.
that's what I would say.
Okay, great. All right. So I want to give 30 seconds to all of four esteemed panelists here to answer the question Indrani has asked. How has the role of the leaders, HR leaders, changed? So, Mr. Rakesh, 30 seconds. Everybody, this is your test of being a good coach.
I think we better be from any generation. I think we need to know the preferences and styles of the generations here. I would like to mention Gen Z and Gen Y. They are more purpose driven. So we must ensure that their roles are connected to the purpose of which they're working for, which is
Okay.
often being missed out.
Purpose connected to the roles. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, Dr. Navneet, how has the role of HR leaders changed?
Similar to what Mr. Kher talked about. So looking at individual beliefs, aspirations, and amalgamating it with the broader objective of the organization through various phenomena. And therefore, one needs to be having, a hat which talks about having different strokes for different folks. On one hand, having a common ground policies for all, and keep on innovating.
Okay, wonderful. Anjali?
I think two things. One, I think, is practicing flexibility in the workplace, right? Practicing flexibility in the true sense of the term. And
Okay.
second, I think, is really being agile, right? So creating a culture of agility where people are able to quickly move into different situations and different mindsets and styles.
Okay, I like that. So, agility and flexibility. Sudarsana?
So I think it's a mindset of co-creating with the people, because everyone's need is different, and we are talking about coming up with bouquet of offerings. And so we have to be more open-minded and shouldn't think that HR is only our baby. It's co-creating with the employees. Finally, it's meant for them.
I like that. Yeah, this is okay. Great. So nice. So this is it, coaches. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I hope this whole session was valuable to you. I'm sure we wanted to cover all the questions we couldn't, but then I believe that most of the questions must have got answered. And I'm going to pass it on to Ayushi to close the session for us today. Yeah.
I want to thank you all our panelists for taking out their valuable time on a Tuesday evening to share their insights, their expertise, the case studies that came out. So Darshana, the story that you told about someone coming from underprivileged Gen Z is very, very similar, has similar work values like leaders today. So thank you everyone for bringing in your views. Lovely to have you here. Yeah, that's it. Look
Thank you,
forward.
everyone.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We would like to thank everyone who was here. Thank you, everyone, once again.